Hey, what's up? Hello. Okay, guys, we are officially live.
Hi.
Hello, everybody. What's up? Welcome to fantaseries, a fantasy series book club where we talk about fantasy series. Today, we're going to be talking about We Free the Stars. So, to get started, we'll go ahead and introduce ourselves. And do we want to do ratings now or later? What do you guys think?
We can do them now.
Yeah,
Okay,
let's do them
great.
now. Let's do
Perfect.
them now.
All right, guys. My name's Christine. I'm from the Roomies Digest. My rating was a 3-star.
Okay.
Yes.
You said that you were at like Alcoholics Anonymous or something, like with a lot of shame. Like it's
You're not
okay.
supposed to tell people that, Rachel. You're not supposed to tell people that. No. Well, because I was thinking, I was like, should I do more of an intro? I was like, should I tell people Monique is also part of the Roomies Digest? My brain was going a little too fast for that moment. So
Okay.
anyway.
All
Jess.
right. Hi guys, my name is Jess. My channel is called Books Past Bedtime. I had a mediocre reading experience with this one as well, and probably 2.5
Here we
maybe
go.
stars,
Okay.
maybe 2.
Interesting.
I
Interesting.
expected that.
Okay. I'm Rachel. I'm from the channel Let Me in the Library. I gave this book 3 stars, but frankly, do I remember anything about this book? Not really, but a little bit. So I'm excited to talk about it. But also, we have a special guest today.
Hi, my name is Louisa. You can call me Lou. I actually like the book a lot. I give it like 4 stars.
I love it.
It's like I vibed a lot with it. And I'm at the channel Low Reading Things. So yeah.
So everybody go and subscribe.
Yes, please.
Obviously. Okay, so let's get chit chatting. It's funny, I just want to like talk about this really quick. You were like, Rachel said, I don't remember much of what happened in this book. I resonate with that, but also I do remember that ending. Okay. So
I do remember the ending. The
yeah, that
ending
was
I remember. The middle and beginning parts are a little more fuzzy.
Yeah.
to me.
The beginning, I remember specifically thinking that it was an exact summary of what had happened in the first book. Like it was like, you know, when you watch a TV show and they give you the entire like
here's the
first
previous
season.
season.
Previously in the
Here's everything you missed.
Yes, that's
Yeah.
like what I felt like in the first 5, I think 5 to 6 chapters. I was like, okay, granted, I don't remember a lot of this, but I don't also want this. So let's look forward.
I mean, actually, I was glad they recapped it just because I had probably like a month in between the first and the second book when I had actually read them. And I had read a lot in between, so I kind of needed the recap. And I didn't want to have to like reread the first book or have to recap the first book online or something. So it was unusual for a book to do that for me, but I didn't mind it because I was also like, what was that? What happened? Where did we leave off? And then when they were like, by the way, Altair is now going to be like, everybody left me. I can't believe this. I was like, okay, now we're on the same page. Okay, I remember.
That was
Yeah.
so sad.
I agree with that.
So
I feel like
sad.
the first book like went in one ear and out the other, so I kind of needed a recap. And when they were like, Altair was behind everything, I was like, oh my god, he was?
Yeah, you were like, wait, what?
I was like, wait, what?
Mastermind?
Yeah. Also, you know, fave character, question mark. But yeah, so things start out pretty sketchy in the second one, I think. Like just the fact that she's carrying around the book and the book is like whispering to her. Did anyone like think that was bad news, or was I the only one?
Well, I
I
was
like,
like, this
she's
is an evil
whispering to a book.
This is definitely an evil book, for sure.
Right? And then she's like telling herself, she's like, don't touch that book. And I'm like, possessive much? Like, but it ended up being also a little sus when, I guess this comes in the end of the first book too, but so Nasir and Zafira, they get together, right? And then Nasir's like, it means nothing though.
Where I was like, why did you say that? You had something.
He's an expert at ruining his own happiness.
Yeah.
He just likes to make himself miserable.
Right.
It was annoying. Like it came a moment that he liked to make himself so miserable that I was like, dude, you gotta lay it low a little. Just
Right.
It was a little forced, I feel like. I'm like,
Yeah,
just
I'm like, we literally deleted everything we
get
just
it
went
together.
through.
Like, not that hard.
And also, we get it. You're the Prince of Darkness. You've got shadows, but like, you don't have to be a depresso
Okay,
too.
sorry. That was the other thing in this book because he was like, "You don't understand. I'm the Prince of Darkness," and I was like, "You can't say that out loud." Like,
And you're like,
saying that.
say that out loud to like a normal human being and see what they say to you.
And he just kept doing it, and I was like,
I know, bad boy.
we were doing so. Like, I really enjoyed him for most of book one, where I was like, okay, I really like your character.
Yeah.
I like your whole thing, but I just kind of feel like it was a bit overkill with him being like, nobody understands me.
Yeah.
God, Mom, leave me alone. Where I was like, okay,
He's a drunk.
you're trying to connect with these people. You are obviously in love with each other. Why are you
Yeah.
being so self-destructive? Like, relatable, but why are you doing that?
Yeah. I got equally annoyed with Zafira though, because she got mad at him so many times for like not saying what he wanted, but like, bitch, did you ever say what you wanted either? No. So hypocrite. Like, what's going on?
God, it was. I like love them for like the hotness that happens, but also I'm like,
What
please
hotness?
give me- Okay, do you remember? Okay, yes, let's talk about it.
There was
Do
zero
you remember when
Zero
they're
space.
going in the beginning? They're going to go onto the roof to have that really romantic, like.
Yeah, and he makes her jump, and she like hurts herself.
She's like, oh, my back.
Romantic.
No, but before that, when she's like, you know, whatever, I don't remember what she says, but he's like, I can be fun, and he's got like fire in his eyes, and he's just like looking at her, and she's like, ooh, I didn't know I was gonna be sweating, and then he's like, no, you actually are gonna be sweating.
Remember any of this?
Onto this thing to like get up to the top of the thing. Anyway, I was
Where
like,
was
She literally falls on her face.
yeah,
no, it's right at the
Your
beginning
face.
of the book. I feel like with this book and the first book too, in a sense, it starts out really slow, and so because the pacing is a little off, like it really picks up at the halfway mark. I thought that this was going to somehow be fixed in the second book. It really wasn't. But because it's so slow in the first part, there's a lot of things that happen that I'm just like, oh, okay, that happened, right? I just remembered the scene that happened, so maybe that could have been worked a little better, because I feel like those scenes were important for character development, but also like
went right over my head.
Yeah,
you know, because like I mean, I definitely found the second book easier to read in a way where like I was already introduced to the world. So once I was like, oh yeah, the recap, okay, I know. I like read this book much faster than I read the first book.
Yeah,
I think. So I don't know if that's necessarily pacing or if it was just like I'm used to everything now, so we can do it.
Yeah,
I love this dog.
Yeah, that's literally, honestly, I was talking to Monique about this, and like, for you guys who don't know, Monique does not read fantasy, and I was like, honestly, you could have read this book and like been fine, because once you get past like, you know, the setup, like it's like you can go gung-ho. You don't have to like take the pacing to a slow level anymore. Like, we understand what's happening, we understand the characters, we understand like where the plot is like going, we think. So we don't have to go at a snail's pace, and that is something that I wish had been a little bit fixed. But
the first book,
right? Yeah. But like,
yeah, I guess it also really depends though, because remember when we did our first fantasy show, Tammy and Lisa were, I think Lisa also, but Tammy was saying like I really like slow paced books where we get to know the characters and whatnot. So you really get that in the first book, and then the second one is just like, okay, we already hit you with all this stuff in the first book. Let's keep going. Here's all this stuff that's going to happen. Or is it? Because I don't even remember the middle part, to be honest. I do remember some things. Not much. I remember in the beginning where Altair is like, oh my God. And then his dad has him in a cage. I don't know how he gets out. Then somehow they meet back up.
There's a library on fire at some point. Like,
it's not actually on fire.
Oh my God. Okay, sorry. Can we get a recap? I don't even remember like half of this book at least.
I don't know if I can give a good recap. Basically, they go to get the hearts they're intermittent chapters where you've got I always want to say Altair. Is that his name? Altair. His
Altair, I
chapter,
think, like you said, his name,
yeah, with like Zafira and Nasir. But like honestly, I feel like this book, I wanted more of Altair. I don't know if I got enough of him, honestly, now that I'm thinking about it. Because I feel like this book kind of focused a little more on the romance. Am I crazy? No?
I think
Yeah,
there were a lot of like back and forth of the romance.
Yeah.
Like, will they, won't they? But we know they will. But
When I
Right,
started
but like
listening
it
to the
wasn't like
audiobook-
romantic, but it was like we're gearing up to get there. You know, like the
Yeah.
setup again. I don't know. Anyway, I just wanted like a little bit more. This is what I said about the last one. I just wanted like a little bit deeper. Like even though we had like these like focus on the characters, I didn't feel connected in a way that even though it was focused on the characters, if that makes sense. And I don't know how else to like
I really
get
didn't
under the
have,
skin.
like, any emotions for any characters in this book. I just like there's some kind of disconnect.
Yeah, like
Me.
even when she's talking about her mom, like in the beginning, she's like talking about how her mom's village got
Yeah.
attacked, right?
I'm like,
And like we
oh,
knew that
yeah.
that was gonna happen because in the end of the first one, they're like,
the
oh,
gas and
Huh?
stuff. Wasn't it in the first book the Sultan was like called like there was gas that was like destroying its
Yeah,
town?
it was
like,
a setup from the first book, but we
Right.
didn't get to see how it happens until
Right.
the second.
okay, I do remember this, yeah, because she goes back to her hometown and
Right.
she finds out a bunch of people died, including her mother.
right.
And
And she finds out her mom finally like stepped up and was like, oh, I haven't been a person since your dad died. Obviously the mom didn't say that she's dead, but like summary.
she could have found out about that. But also Yasmin's husband was also like a spy for Altair.
Yeah, but also Dean too.
The whole y'all when they
That was
when
in
they
the
talked
first
about
book.
Dean, I forgot Dean was a character in the first one. That's how funny I am. I said Dean, and then I said, "Oh, Dean."
Oh my god! Okay, because
I really did
Well, the thing
laugh,
was,
and I didn't mean to. Bless him.
somebody talked about this in the Discord, and they were like, "Oh, I hate the trope where there's a best friend and they get killed off just to make room for the other character." And I was like, "Huh?"
Oh,
Because I hadn't read the book yet, and then I read it, and I was like, "Well, this man's gonna die, so I won't have any attachment."
yeah, I
emotionally
would be
towards
attached.
him. So I feel like I played myself by accidentally reading the spoilers in the Discord. So oops. But I mean, I remember being like, "Oh, Dean's a good guy.
He's an okay guy.
He's a good person, kind of." But also, he was the one who was like, "Well, like no one should change for anybody." I
He
think.
said- No, he said the opposite of that. He said you should change when you get together with somebody.
Oh,
He was
okay,
like,
yeah.
No, I
Everybody-
think Dean was the guy who just like yeeted himself into the ship and just decided that, you
Yeah.
know, I'm gonna die. I am
He
aware
was
of
just
this.
kind of pitiful to me.
He did.
He's a
He,
pitiful character.
tell him, Jess. Tell them. This poor man. I really felt bad for him because Zafira said, she was like, "Sir, if you come on this trip, you will die." And Dean's like, psh, psh, maybe. Psh,
And I'm
yeah.
still not gonna leave you. So.
Wait, what?
Wait, you start cutting in and out. Say it again.
I was talking to Safira saying, "You're gonna die, and I'm still not gonna sleep with you."
Yeah.
Why are you thinking? I don't know.
Well, see, my
Speaking-
problem is just generally whenever there's like a very heavy, like a person with like a lot of simp energy, I guess, I just have no attachment towards them. Because I'm like,
Well, I have no respect for
No.
them.
yeah, it's just,
Be your own
Well,
person.
Because it's
You need
too
balance.
easy.
you need balance.
Yeah,
But-
like we need a little bit of mystery, Dino. Okay, we can't
Yeah.
have you coming into the look at freaking Fortune being the sweetest baby. Anyway,
Yeah, I mean, like,
But yeah.
if you're simping from page 1, I'm like, I can't get behind this. If
But,
you
like-
become an eventual simp, I can get down with that. But
If
Tell
we
us,
are to
Lou,
be
tell
honest
us.
though, Nasir was simping from like first line. As soon as he saw Zafira, he was like straight into Sim Town.
right?
So
Yeah, but I feel like
internally,
he
but
has other
internally.
aspects to his
But
character
he was
other
also-
than being
yeah.
a simp.
he was also
Like,
in
what do you
denial,
do?
though. So that was
yeah, they're
Yeah,
all
because-
kind of in
because
denial about
externally-
it.
yeah. Oh no! Wait.
Honestly, I feel like Zafira would have been fine if he had just stepped up because the whole time she's like, "Oh, nothing happened. Okay, big guy," and she's like challenging him the whole time.
Wait, to Nasir?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah.
She kept she kept bringing up. She was like, "Oh, but you said that thing in the last book." Or obviously, she didn't say it in the last book. But
She's like, remember the last book?
remember
that thing you said?
the last script? Remember that? Anyway,
Remember?
yeah, but I don't know. And maybe it's because they're younger. I don't know. Maybe it's the writing. Okay, maybe we should talk about things we liked.
That would be great. I would love to talk about things like.
Let's do it. I'm gonna actually let Lou start off because Lou did have the higher rating here. So
Instead of
Lou,
us
why
just
don't
being
you?
terrible, like
Yeah,
thanks for
no.
coming, Lou.
I like a lot of aspects because I have this theory, right?
Okay.
That
Yes.
when we're reading
Theories, let's go.
YA, you're reading something that you kind of have to put yourself in a place where I'm not the target audience for this. This book was not written for me.
Yes.
So a lot of things sometimes I was like, this is kind of over the top. But then when I remember when I was 17, I was like, well, that checks out. So there is a lot, but I feel like we should analyze a book and we should look at the quality of a book, of a YA book, by the underlying story of it. And I feel like the underlying story of this book is truly a book about trauma and how we come together with it. And I think one character that embodies this really well, and we were talking about how Nasir couldn't really make his mind up about things, because also that's an effect of trauma. Like he couldn't really commit to something, he couldn't say things because that's an effect of trauma. And Yasmin also, after her brother died, there was a lot of going back and forth that she just really needed to grapple with. But that theme of trauma was sort of exploded into the larger political scheme of the land. So you have a lot of harm that was done, and now we have to address it. And the process of addressing this trauma and this harm is never going to be simple. So I really like how this kind of sort of underlined all of the story. Like there is a lot that needs to be done, and specifically towards the end of the book, she specifically says, like, I wish, the good thing would be if I could come here and say everybody lived happily ever after. But the truth was, after we did all of this, the work was just starting. There was a lot of work or reconciliation that needed to be done. And so I felt like I wanted more because I wanted to see more of this reconciliation done. But I feel like Hafsah Faizal does use this to provide some interesting commentary on a lot of trauma that goes into the making of a country. So that's why I liked the book so much. I thought it was an interesting YA version of this sort of commentary. So and also I just like characters who simp, and Nasir simped a lot, and I was like, I'm very happy with this simping.
He did, and he got his cookie at the end. So
exactly.
There you go. I was like, if we don't get a scene, if we don't get not one scene, y'all, I'm done.
But it was just like the careful embrace at the okay, wait, we're gonna have but I do want to say, because I don't really know like how to put my finger on like what this is, like how do I take the pulse of what I'm talking about? I don't know, but all of the scenes that are kind of at a certain point in this book, which is pretty early on, is each of these characters figuring out who they are now that like the big battle is over in a way. So it's sort of like, who is Zafira without the huntress? Like, because once the ours is gone, the whole idea of being the hunter or the huntress is sort of like, she doesn't need that anymore. So now who is she? So there's a whole path of discovery that she has to go on. And then Nasir is also still kind of struggling with this whole idea of like, yes, I'm the emo prince of darkness, but also like he literally has like evil superpowers. So like each of these people being like, okay, now I have this like weird experience where I'm grappling with these weird powers. Like, listen, puberty is confusing enough, and then you have superpowers, and then you have the Prince of Darkness. Like, it's just kind of like what Lou's saying is like, as the person at the age that I am now, I'm like, okay, this is a little bit silly with this. Like, maybe it's not what would entertain me, but I know that when I was like 17 or something, I would have been like, this is the coolest story ever. Oh my God, cool.
And it's also a metaphor for, this process of maturing as well, how you're like, you used to think. I am reminded of Taylor Swift when she says, when you are young, they assume you know nothing. But it's truly that you assume that you know things, and then you kind of have to figure it out. I am reminded a lot of those tweets of like, are you a formerly gifted child who went well in school and now you're a burnout college student who doesn't know anything? So it's kind of like that. You sort of attach yourself to those identities in order to find meaning in the world. And then you find out that the world is much better when you don't attach yourself to those identities. But what am I supposed to do without this comfort, without this
Right.
safety blanket?
With
So
the
I feel like it's an
find
interesting
yourself
discussion there. Yeah.
I actually really love that you guys brought that up as a point, because I didn't even realize that. And while reading this book, I was trying to be like I was trying to put myself in a YA mindset. I really was trying. So I'm realizing in my old age that maybe YA is not my cup of tea anymore. But anyway, neither here nor there. I think it's super interesting that you bring up that once the forest is gone, Rachel, once the forest is gone, Zafira is like, okay, I'm not the huntress anymore. Not only that, her mom is gone, so she's not a caretaker anymore, even for her sister, who becomes like a healer,
Yeah.
and she's like doing her own thing. Like when they meet up in the beginning, she's like, oh yeah, I've been healing people. I've been learning some things. She told me I had a perfect stitch, so I don't really, we can be sisters and like get together, but I'm doing my own thing.
Yeah.
And I really like that. And I really like, you brought up Lou, Nasir's whole journey. I honestly, when I was reading this book at the end, I was like, was this Nasir's story? I feel like this was Nasir's story. Because in the end, like even the very last page, there's like a line that's like, if I have my book, and all this to say, like the crown prince, this was a story about him, essentially, to paraphrase. And I think it's really interesting because at the end of that first book, you realize that his father has been controlled by this evil darkness, and it's not really his dad, but he's gone through all this trauma, like you said. And it's something that he's got to work with. I think that's a really good point.
That is something that oh no, you can go ahead, Rachel.
Oh, sorry. I was just gonna say
one at a time.
Sorry. I was just gonna say also, it was just like the absolute cruelty of the lion,
like
through the Sultan, and like you just saw like another glimpse into how horrible it must have been. Because in the first live show that we did, we talked about this a little bit with Nasir having this like very awful relationship with his father, but then kind of finding out that like it's not really his dad who's doing this, and hoping his dad is really still somewhere in there, but it doesn't make what's happening to him any less awful and painful. But in this book, where it's like you literally know it's like an evil magical being, but it's still the face of your father. And there was the whole like branding thing. Ooh. And it was this thing for me, and it was like, okay, if I do, then don't do. And it was like, oh yeah, I'm still gonna like brand him anyway, and I'm gonna like make you watch this happen. And like, and the fact that he had like all of these different ones on his back from it happening over and over, it was just like, it's so heartbreaking to see that contrasted with the actual personality of the father without the lion or anything like that.
Yeah, like before.
So, I mean, like there were definitely a lot of like general kind of complaints that I had about the book of like, all of this will they, won't they? I don't love that so much, but I do kind of feel like a lot of the things that were maybe not like necessarily like romance based, but like other things that were other like human relationships, they just felt very good. I don't know how to describe them, but I just feel like Hafsah Faizal just did a good job with all of that stuff. Of like, I wasn't like super in love with the found family itself, but I think like the things with Yasmin and with Zafira's sister and with like the lion, and like between the lion and Altair and between the lion and Nasir, like each of those relationships itself, they were just done in such a way that I was like, okay, this is really interesting, because you aren't just a solid like, I mean, like he was a super evil guy, but like, how do we address this from a way that's more interesting to talk about? And it's not just, here's the evil guy, we'll fight him with the power of friendship, but it was like, what do we do now? Like, this is so horrible.
Yeah, and also like piggybacking this a little, Rachel, in the first book, I was really annoyed with the idea that, the person who abuses you is only doing that because there's something evil behind them, and if you take that off, then that thing is gone.
Yeah.
And so that was something that was really annoying me, because I was like, you can't say that, especially to a child who has been abused by their parents. Like, it's not your duty to save the child. I don't think that this was quite as well treated in the sequel as I would like, because I would prefer if it just simply wasn't possible for the father to really exist. I know that Nasir actually needed that one moment, but I thought it would be better, because there is no underlying reason for abuse, and the reason why the lion would abuse Nasir. And it was a throwaway line in the book, and I was so mad. This should be explored a little further, because Nasir turns to the lion and he says, you hate me. I know why you hate me. You hate me because I have the same power as you, but she loved me and not you. And so when he's talking about his mom, and I feel like that would be so interesting to explore, but it kind of got a little muddled in the sense of, oh, okay, I'm gonna save my dad, and I'm gonna do this, and I'm gonna end it, and I'm gonna get my dad back, and suddenly all of this is going to end. And then he had his hope, which was never kind of addressed, because even when he thought that his dad was going to come back, he was still like, I can't let this go. Like, this is not going anywhere. This fear is not going anywhere. So I thought that this was an interesting exploration of that, in the sense of sort of like, there is no easy fix to this relationship that was built out of abuse. You can try to mend it, but it's still there. Like, the scars are not going anywhere. And so I felt like this was an interesting, very heavy conversation to be had in a YA book, but also a very necessary one, I feel.
Yeah, but I agree with you. Like, I'm not really sure how I would want it to be done, but I do think I guess the problem is when you put something like this in a YA fantasy, it sometimes does cause readers to draw parallels with their own life and not see that, like, if you say, like, hey, this person is evil, but not really, it's just that, like, there's something evil in them, and once it's gone, like, just like what you were saying, like, it's very hard to translate that to real life with something thematic to come away from and feel like you have learned something about your own personal life. And I think, like, it would have been interesting for something where, like, Nasir is really trying to pursue this idea of separating the two, but it's impossible. And there's, like, you know, a little bit more with that, because, like you're saying, I feel like it was a cool thing to attempt to do in this book, but it, like, very quickly kind of went away, because I think it was, like, the Silver Witch who kind of just, like, threw her power at it, and it like, he was gone, and then it was just over. And then we moved on to the next thing. And I don't know, like, I really liked what she was trying to do with their relationship, as far as, like, just even putting that in her book in the first place. But I do agree, I feel like it was bold, but I wanted a little bit more.
Yeah, this is a debut, isn't it?
Debut.
So yeah.
Yeah, this was her first series. And in fact, I'm kind of interested to see, because she is writing, obviously, another series, and that one is like a pirate series. And I'm interested to see how her writing develops, because she's like pretty young for a writer as well, in her 20s. And I think, Rachel, this was like sparking an idea, I guess, like a realization for me, that, like, you were talking about, you know, the execution essentially of having these really deep topics, but putting it in a YA. And I think maybe it was the execution for me that didn't have me connect to it necessarily, because I did, like, as we're talking about it, I'm like, yeah, that did happen. Like, I do realize that there was trauma with these characters, but, like, for some reason, I didn't necessarily, I don't want to say I didn't care, because obviously it's terrible, but, like, I wasn't, like, heartbroken about it, if that makes sense. But yeah, I'll be interested to see, like, where it goes from here as far as the writing.
Also, I just want to say, we have so many comments and we haven't clicked on a single
one. I was like hovering over the first one. I was like, do you guys want to go through the comments real quick? But yeah, we'll just say hello to everybody. If you're here on the live show, thanks so much. Noelle, I know you DNF this book, but I love that you're here for the tea, hanging out with your friends. John, how's it going? For those of, what did you say?
I said I would have DNF'd it if I wasn't in this live show.
Well,
valid, and I am with you on that one. Evil book be like, hey, little mama, let me whisper in your ear. It really was. Like, from the beginning.
Yeah, it was very much like that.
It was very much like Gollum and the Ring, okay, and like Lord of the Rings, like my precious. Yeah. Like, I definitely got that vibe and that energy from their interactions. And that, I remember specifically when I started reading the book, I was like, if this ends up being like what it's gonna be, I don't know. I just don't know. Hey Vish, what's up? I love that everyone who DNF'd this book is here in the chat.
Thank you so much for coming anyway.
Yeah, I love you guys. If you guys did read the book, what did you rate it? Like, let's chit chat about it in the chat. Fortune, yeah, Fortune's a sweetie. Late night live show, yes. Hello, hi.
If anybody
Favorite
has
first
a
book?
favorite part of the book, also let us know.
Oh yeah, okay. So the husband.
Yasmin's
Yes. What was his
okay,
name
I
again?
had suspicions about him because first of all, I was like, are Zafira and Yasmin not going to get together? Because like I know they're not because of the book, but like their chemistry already was like, you are the moon of my life. If
Oh
like
yeah.
you're like closer than sisters, I was like wives or no? Like no, okay. But he was like, I have to marry this man, but he's great, and it just kind of seemed like one of those things where your friend is like, are you sure? Okay, it's your decision, but
Yeah.
like it was just like not a perfect relationship in a way. Like it looked perfect from the outside, but I had like suspicions about him. But then I literally forgot he existed because we went on this whole journey.
Right.
And then we came back and it was like, actually, he was a spy all along. I was like, wait, who is this? Oh yeah.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
never trusted him.
I thought it was cheap that he died. I didn't like that he died.
Yeah, I thought he was gonna actually have like a moment because he was like, I was a spy, but I fell for you and all that stuff.
Yeah, I'm like, okay, what's the
Like,
point of this
let him
character?
redeem himself or something like that. And he died like in like 3 pages or something.
His purpose was to just give Yasmin more trauma, which she didn't need any more trauma.
I mean, it's either
I felt
that
so
or like
bad for her.
to be like a cover for the fact that she actually wanted to get with Zafira, and I'm like, just let it be, okay? Just let them be together.
I wanted them to be together.
Yeah.
But
yeah, that was so random. I don't know. I was like mixed feelings about him. And also like another like plot twist, I guess like betrayal. Benjamin's
Benjamin's wife. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That was kind of wild. I feel like that was out of character. Like I don't know.
Why did she do that?
I mean, okay,
I
so
think she was just so broken that she could be swayed easily.
Yeah. I think because she had that friendship with the lion before, I think she was already like prone to being molded into something. And it's like when her husband died, her son has already been murdered, her husband is now dead, she has nothing to live for. So like, what do you know what I mean? And like the only thing she was really familiar with, maybe, I don't know, is the lion, you know, someone from her past. So that's where I went with it.
Yeah, and also like there is this whole thing about how the Safin, they weren't really used to death, and so they're immortal, and
right, because they live.
Yeah, and they're not supposed to die, and it's one of the things that happened when the curse fell was that they started dying, and so when she made that, I knew that she was going to do it because I feel like if you look at someone who is not supposed to know death to this extent, and then suddenly starts losing everyone in their lives, like I would want something similar, some resemblance of security or familiarity too. So it makes sense. I also didn't like that she died. I thought that, a lot of things could happen.
Again, like I wanted people to be able to redeem themselves or something.
Yeah, or just maybe dig deeper, like their own holes. Like I don't know. I feel like a lot of the side characters were very undeveloped in this regard because I feel like they all had very interesting plot lines that could be explored, but they weren't. Right. And this book was actually pretty long. I was reading on ebook and and then I was like, how long is this book? Like,
wasn't it like 600 pages?
600 pages, and I was like, dude, there's a lot of plot lines that could have gone a lot of places.
Right.
It's like,
well, to deep dive into the side characters and then make their deaths mean something. That's another thing, like where I was like, okay, they're dying. We're throwing away death. Like, I don't care. I literally don't care. That really, sucks. But like, let's kill Nasir and let's keep him dead. And then I might shed a tear, okay? But like, if we're gonna kill these people who are already low-key kind of bad, or like they betrayed somebody, or they already kind of did something that I'm like, sus.
Well, see, that's the problem though, because it also like kind of paints the idea of like if you make a wrong, I mean, they're pretty bad decisions, but also like if you make a wrong decision, then that's it.
Well, and that's why I think it's more like it's definitely a YA book because the difference between YA and adult is like in a YA, that the bad guy is the bad guy and they're always going to make the bad guy decisions. and they're never going to be good. You know what I mean? Like,
and there's very rarely like a lot of subversion there, whereas adult tends to do more subversive.
Right.
Not always, but yeah,
but adults can make decisions and they can be wrong, and then they deal with those consequences.
Yeah.
Right. So and I feel like in this one we did not deal with the consequences.
Right. Yeah. It just feels like it wasn't fair. Like it wasn't even like let me, like it wasn't even like let me make up for what I've done.
Right.
As as a balance, it was just like if you've done something wrong, you die, and then if this person doesn't, you die. And like even for people who like grieving, who also went through their own trauma, it's just a little bit strange because it's like if you're not the main character, you're
dead. You're dead.
Yeah. The more we talk about this, the more I'm like, oh yeah, that happened a lot.
Yeah. We totally forget these things. We forget these things. Hey, Nicole Lee, how's it going? She's just having a good time in Cali. You know how it is. Straight into Simp Town. Yeah, it's a fun ride until you're there for 600 pages, and then you're like, please, God, please, do something. What themes do you feel were done across the duology, and how do you feel they were done? Thank you, Rachel, for the question. Does anybody want to take this one?
Everyone talked a lot.
Well, we did talk about a question like this, like the trauma, the underlying trauma in both books, which I think can be. I think the theme there would be dealing with it and the grief, which is something that Lou has already kind of touched on.
I think it also has a lot to do with identity, though, because
identity,
in the beginning, I mean, for the majority of the first book and also a lot of this book, I mean, even when we address Saphira and Nasir, like we always address Saphira as Huntress, so she is the Huntress at all times, and then they still call her that to a more like familial term. But she has to actually understand what she is without that, because as we touched on before, all of a sudden she's not needed as the huntress. She's not needed as the caretaker. Her sister has like taken on a more important role like in her village. So it's sort of like, if I leave that behind, am I even anything? And she has this book whispering in her ear on what to do and who to be. And it's sort of a question of like, do you just believe that you are something because of the environment that you're in and what it necessitates from you, or do you have an identity that stands outside of that? Right. And then from this perspective, he is this Prince of Darkness, which he's been told his entire life, but part of that he kind of learns is facilitated by his father being possessed by this evil spirit, which has like this identity crisis of like, oh my God, this entire time I've been forced to like go around and kill people, which like, if we stop and think about that for a second, hold on. That's kind of insane, right? Like if there was like king of a nation or the sultan of a nation, and then he was just like, by the way, my son will be the royal assassin. Like that's kind of just completely.
Not only that, but like he was assuming that he would one day be like in control. Like one day he would be the top dog, right?
Yeah.
So that is really crazy to me. Like that's insane that you, a killer, would be accepted by your kingdom as then the ruler of the kingdom, and everybody knows if you lift a finger out of line, you're dead, right?
But wouldn't that be the point of the lion, though?
What do you mean?
Like, wouldn't like basically making sure that Nasir would never be able to ascend to the throne and would have everything that he waited for like destroyed? That was kind of like what the lion wanted. So making Nasir to be this, so making Nasir to be this creature that was completely loathed by the kingdom was also like,
all part
you're not going to get anything.
Right.
You know?
So I mean, like, I agree that, like, yes, that was part of his plan, but I just mean, like, it's so wild to think that, like,
when you step back and look at it, you're
like just think about, like, who you are as a person, and if your dad was like, hey, can you go kill everybody that I hate? He'd be like, what? And they'd just be like, yeah, can you just kill everybody?
Look, my dad asks me to sue a whole lot of people, so I get it, you know?
Well,
when you have a particular set of skills, sometimes your parents just like,
Yeah, but almost it's like he created him for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, Nasir, I mean, like, you know, we can make fun of him all we want, but he really did have a real rough upbringing.
A very rough upbringing, yeah.
Right.
And then that's why he has that kind of, like, identity crisis of, like, if that's not truly what I am meant to be, despite what I've been told my whole life. No, because that's the other thing is, like, objectively, it might sound ridiculous, but internally, if you're in that position,
right,
nothing sounds ridiculous because
Right.
that's what you're told. So you don't think
yeah,
like
not
that's
only
crazy.
that, and you're dealing with all the trauma from all
Yeah.
of it. And
Right.
it's like essentially being a chosen one trope, and then all of a sudden that trope gets taken away, and you're like, you're not special. Nothing
Right.
was.
And also
was
like
cool
in
about you.
the more like dark sense of like I must kill people and being like, nope, you didn't have to do that.
Yeah.
And
Oh
like,
God. Yeah.
oh,
Can you imagine?
oh God. So I mean that's kind of why you know, that whole like journey of these two main characters having this, you know, thing of like, who am I without the R's? And then who am I without the impression of I must be the Prince of Darkness or whatever? Or like, can I take on a new meaning for either of these things? I mean, I definitely think those are the strongest themes that I connected with throughout the course of the duology. I don't know about everyone else if you have different answers or anything, but trauma is definitely also a very big one. And I would argue some people would definitely favor like found family and whatnot, although I personally did not feel too connected with that. I feel like in the first book, these other characters just like popped up out of nowhere. Because I just remember a lot of scenes where people were like fighting, and then all of a sudden they were like gathered around a campfire with other people and they would talk, and then they were fighting again, and it was just like very quickly like back and forth, and I wasn't really sure like where do these characters come from to the point that they're willing to like all stick together.
Mm-hmm.
So,
well, yeah, because they're all from different places too. I think the only reason they kind of came together was because of Altair.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it kind of feels like a loose D&D campaign where it's just like,
Yes!
oh, you're all travelers.
I was just thinking about that.
Yeah, because I was like, this isn't like bad for a one-shot D&D campaign.
But
it's not the best thing I've ever, but it's pretty. I mean, it kind of fits really, really well with the D&D campaign. Because you know, like when people say, well, I don't know if you guys know this, but like, you know, if people play D&D and it's really good, sometimes people write those stories, or they're just like, I just want the story to go this way, and they just end up writing that story. And I was just like, that's kind of just exactly what this feels like. So.
Alternate ending. I think also there was a ton of foreshadowing for Altair to be king with that.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, because he's got all this planning that he's doing. He's basically like the puppeteer, you know? And he's pulling all these strings, doing all these things. He's got to learn the politics, even though he wasn't even expecting to be that person. And I think he admits that in the first book. I think he's like, I always knew that you would be the king or Sultan.
Well, yeah, he does. He says like, you know, it would be you. So I always got to kind of like goof off or whatever. But like,
right. But really, he wasn't goofing off. So. Yeah, he was really kind of like running the whole show.
Because he's always like the charming one, and he's the one that everyone he appeals to everyone else.
But really it's just a mask. So it goes with the identity theme, but that's what I think. That's what I think too. Yeah, Lou just schooled us this whole time. This is actually a TED Talk for Lou.
I hate it. I always do this. I'm sorry.
No,
it's
please.
Perfect. No, it's good because all of us were like, wow, I wish that they had like kissed sooner. And Lou was like, actually, this is about trauma. And we were all like, okay.
We are embarrassing. Anyway. Yes. Sorry guys, I'm getting through some of the comments. I know I'm far behind. LOL at that comment. I think it's a great opportunity here for young people at 16, 17, 18 to read this and help them process who am I and where do I go next? And maybe, you know, another theme is under the umbrella of identity. You know, don't let people tell you who you are. You can decide, you know? Yes, whatever this
actually, like you have to decide, I feel.
Yeah, you literally have to decide because
like the responsibility is on you.
Yeah, all these labels that other people have given you. And that's why I think it's so funny every time when they're like, oh, Prince of Darkness, da-da-da. And he's like, it's like after everybody says his official title, I feel like Nasir every time would be like, yes, Prince of Darkness, don't look at me. Like very like Phantom of the Opera in this like basement of the opera house, like I am unworthy. And it's like, Nasir, my guy, you know how to kill somebody in 40,000 ways. Please, you are amazing. Okay. But I digress. This is also interesting since I don't normally read YA and really connect, but also that probably comes from me not seeing these familiar tropes in a while. Yeah, you definitely have to get into the mindset, I think, like Lou was saying, like even if it's not your cup of tea usually, you know, think of the audience, which is a great point. Once Dean became a plot device in book 1, I kind of lost faith, lost interest, and never quite got it back.
Oh.
Yeah, it was a throwaway death. We all know, you know. Huge fan of the power of friendship. That's in fact what's fueling us right now on this live show. So, Dean wasn't enough of a bad boy for Saphira.
I like this comment because Yasmin actually pointed this out, like literally threw that on Saphira's face when they were arguing, and I was like, "That's low," but like, it's true though.
Yeah,
I also loved the scene where he shows up and Yasmin is like, "You know him? You know him? You know him?"
Literally says the title. That's the Prince of Darkness.
Like, she had this whole moment of like
a fangirl moment, basically.
But like horror,
or
something. And she was like, "Oh yeah, we've been like traveling to like I know him. He's like
we low-key made out.
in love with me.
So
it's whatever." I was like,
yeah, that was fun. Poor girl.
Yeah.
Was Dean and Nasir like a Peeta and Gale situation? What? I mean, like, it didn't even start.
But if Gale had died in the first 50 pages.
Yes.
Dean never had a chance. I don't want to say that it was like this.
I think it did Gale.
It's like Peeta and Gale, but not at all. Just very loosely in the way that they're both men interested in the same woman.
Maybe if their personalities were switched.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like, Gale would be Dean, if anything.
Same formula, yes.
Yeah, that exactly.
The best friend
same formula, different character, different numbers.
Yeah.
Different numbers.
Yeah.
LOL, Noel. A Tempest of Tea,
yes,
I think it's called. This is the pirate book.
I don't know when it's coming. I think it's next year, early.
Yeah, I think it's not anytime soon. I think she's still writing it.
Okay.
I say anytime soon. They'll probably crank it out, like you said, in the next 6 months. Who knows?
Yeah, we don't know. Well, I do say, I just want to also highlight this. A lot of people were giving the author shit because they said that, I believe, A Tempest of Tea is supposedly like Six of Crows, and this was the whole discourse that was going on for a while. So for people who are able to support the book, I would like to just highlight that A Tempest of Tea, I find likely to be like Six of Crows, because that's just a thing. That's just a heist thing. That Lee Bardugo didn't invent that. I
just want people to stop comparing shit to Lee Bardugo's books. I just have a mighty need. No.
Yeah.
No.
You know,
so, I do feel like this book though had a lot of similarities to the Hunger Games, going back to the Gale and Peeta thing, particularly in like the character archetypes of Saphira and her sister. Was so similar to Katniss.
Oh, someone did point that out, and they said, "Is this going to be like a?" Actually, well, they didn't say like Katniss and Prim, but they said like Katniss and Rue. Because
but like Prim in the Hunger Games was literally like a little medic running around, just like
she was.
And Katniss and Saphira are both like
bow and arrow, like bow and arrow,
that try and like feed their town and their village.
I guess that's true. I mean, like I guess the rest of like the Hunger Games part. No, but like
not the plot, but just like the character archetypes of the.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I
saw a lot of similarities, but also it's kind of
like every YA fantasy book,
right?
But just the fact that they were both sisters and they both had the same professions,
right? Eventually, guys, we're gonna get to the point in our lives where nothing new can ever happen, and we'll know every single plot line to every single book. But until then.
It's all about the way that you execute it, though, because you can have the same starting points. And
it's a very different book, but just like the fact that
I saw that too.
Yeah, I'm gonna. No, go ahead. Sorry.
I was just gonna say, as soon as she said that her sister was a healer, I was like, of course the sister has to be the exact opposite of Saphira. You know what I mean? Like Saphira is the one who's like gonna gung ho go f shit up. Oh. Anyway, and then the sister is gonna be like the healer who can like perfectly stitch things together and like cares about people and all this stuff. I'm like, of course, yeah.
It's that balance,
right? I would have loved if the sister had like become the next hunter and she had gone off and done her own wayward thing and then had died, and then I would have been like, okay.
Why did you want her to die?
Not like I didn't want her to, but I was like, it would be interesting, okay, if she was like, oh, I'm gonna be like my sister. and go do this thing, and then she ended up maybe like, I don't know, maybe she could have like saved somebody or done something. I mean, you know what I mean. Anyway, that was just me being bored while I was reading it, so let me calm down. What were you gonna say, Lou?
No, I just I'm gonna be the decolonial person because I feel like even though these are tropes that are known to YA stories, I feel like it's also relevant that they're done by authors of color in this sense, because I do feel like these, and there's a lot of their relationship that also has to do a lot with religion, and there's a lot of the author in the book as well, how close Hafsah Faizal is with her sisters, and how these stories that are not Western centric actually need to be told with those exact tropes, because those people actually need and deserve to see those tropes in people who reflect them. So every time that I see an author of color doing the sort of tropes that I know, I always be like, okay, but you know what, I need this or needed this in other aspects, but maybe there is a Arab girl with a sister who would love to see her in this herself in this situation, and so I'm like, you know what, that's fair.
Well, see, that's the other thing though, is like if you see like a white author or like many white authors get to do these like basic, like let's just call them what they are, basic tropes. Like they get to do basic trope A through Z, and everyone's just like, wow, it's great. And then like when an author of color has to do a story that's about grief and trauma and culture, that's not really fair to them. It's like they should be able to do like basic trope A through Z just as well as anybody else. But also like the fact that an author of color who like might be able to create a story that's similar-ish to stuff we've seen before, they're probably going to weave a lot more into there that a lot of people might not get, but it will be very, very meaningful to someone else because it'll be accessible enough for like anyone to jump into and enjoy, like, oh, I know this trope, or like, oh, I know this story. But there'll also be like little nuggets of things here and there that will be much, much more meaningful for other people. And it's important that we get to like let people do stuff like that. So even if it's like, oh my god, it's like Six of Crows, it's like whatever, but it's gonna not be Six of Crows. It's not going to be the same thing. It's gonna be something vastly different just because it's in the hands of an author of color.
Right.
So I'm excited for A Tempest of Tea, even though like this series wasn't like my favorite series by far. I still definitely would give A Tempest of Tea a try. Also because it's pirate books, so
I was just about to say, and also to like piggyback off this, if we look at Leigh Bardugo's history, like it is common knowledge that not a lot of people like the first 3 books she wrote. Right?
Oh, I hate them.
So if we compare that to this, we're like, okay, the first, obviously not you, Lou, because you rated it 4 stars, but like,
no, yeah,
for the rest of us on this live, we're like, okay, well, the first 2, like they were okay, like whatever, 3-star. But then if you look at Leigh's career, it's like Six of Crows. A lot of people really like that one, and so this might be a whole nother ball game, and I think it will, because it does have these like common tropes that we're familiar with, and like I kind of love a thieving trope. Like I love a thief. I love a pirate. I love a person that's gonna break in and just steal some stuff. So like I am excited for this book, and I think I probably will like it more than kind of like this like fantasy journey storyline.
Yeah, because I think like also certain authors will have to work with the space that they're in with the skills that they have, and a lot of times authors will be frustrated to say like, I want to tell a story, but I can't quite do it the way I'm picturing it, but here's the best I can do. And as they keep writing, you never know, like you're saying, like their next thing could be the biggest thing that blows up and everyone loves it. So in some ways I feel like if I really hate an author's work, I'm sorry, I probably won't continue to read them. But I was able to like go through the second book, and even though generally I didn't retain all of it, I still had like a good enough time with it that I'm not like, I didn't have fun, so I won't read more. Like I'm definitely interested to see what she could do. Yeah,
like you might not be the first person to buy the book, but you will maybe at some point probably give it a chance and read it.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think there's a lot of value to that. So yes, she is writing a pirate series. It's gonna be amazing. We're excited. Not these silly gooses. We're getting there. We're getting there. 4 out of 5 me for both books. I'm glad that you enjoyed it. A 3. I loved all the will that you guys didn't like. Yes, some people thrive on that kind of stuff, and I do to a certain extent. I will say that. Like I do like the tension.
I'm here for the angst, but I feel like this book didn't give me the angst. Like I was just like, ugh. I wasn't feeling it.
Yeah.
I think
It
I'm
was
just
like
old.
right on the tip of the iceberg.
I'm just old where I'm like, get to the point. You will fall in love, get married. It's just please. I can't take this. My heart's gonna get. Please.
I feel like, for example, like in the Cruel Prince series, like Amanda, can you shut up?
Oh my god.
This is like it's my turn to talk.
But like the angst in that series, the will they won't they is like the best part.
Oh my god, I love me some Cruel Prince. Lottie.
So I just want that same like visceral feeling.
Yeah.
And tension, which I didn't get from this book.
Yeah, I did feel like it was a bunch of cat and mouse.
Well, I guess the other thing was like we were in Altair and Saphir's perspectives both of the times. Whereas in other books like The Cruel Prince, you might only be seeing it from one character's perspective. So if it's like, what are they thinking? I don't know. But in this one, it's like, I'm simping so hard for you. It's like, I'm simping so hard for you, but I can't say anything. So it's like, you kind of know where everybody stands. And there's like a certain level of like, I want to be with you, but I can't. So there's some angst. But as
no mystery.
As the person that I am now, where I'm like, I just want to go to bed at 8 o'clock. Please just get together. Why are you doing this? Please.
Yes, that's all we want is an 8 p.m. bedtime. My favorite parts are Altair related. Honestly, yeah, I think he still is. I talked about this last live show. I think he's still my favorite character. I think so.
Yeah. I think I liked him the best out of everybody.
Yeah.
And his, also, because Angela, next comment says this, but he was a really good, like, audiobook narration. Mm-hmm. Like, his narration was very good. I don't know what
confused. Was there 2 different narrators for Nasir and Altair? Because they sounded the same to me, and I was very confused.
No, it was. I think it was the same. I think it was the same, but it was just like the voice that the voice actor put on for Altair, where it was more regal and charming, and it was just, I don't know, it was very like captivating. Where I was like, "Oh, you did your job."
I had the opposite experience. I could not tell if not Nasir or Altair was talking.
Really?
Yeah, I could not
always like gravelly, like
a couple minutes to be like, okay, this is the point of view I'm in right now.
No, oh my gosh.
Yeah, that sucks. I would hate that. I would be very confused. 4 out of 5 for both. Yes. I don't know that there was anything I love. I miss Altair's banter in book 2. Yeah. I agree. That's like something that I really missed. I think I said that at the beginning of this live. I was like, I kind of like liked the chapters, and I kind of missed being in his POV.
Yeah.
Like talking, being himself, you know? Like we did need him to lighten things up. On one hand, I respect an author's commitment to kill characters, but not when it seems gratuitous. It seemed a little murder happy, you know?
Yeah. A lot of people died that didn't necessarily need to.
Right. But, you know, they did.
Yeah, but I think the motives things is just YA, though. I mean, like, look, do you want to... we're talking about Leigh Bardugo. Do you want a villain that is flatter than the Darkling? Like,
oh yeah,
the Darkling is literally like a Scooby-Doo villain. It's and people still simp so hard for the Darkling. So you know, it's YA.
Yeah, I remember when I first read the Shadow and Bone series. I remember I loved the Darkling. That was like whenever it came out, whenever that was. Loved the Darkling, and then I did a reread in December, and I was like, this man sucks. Like he really, and I had like a better appreciation for other characters, but it definitely was surface level, and it is a YA thing, I think. I don't know though, but there are some YAs where I'm like, wait a minute.
I feel like that's almost discrediting YA as a genre, because there's some very, very excellently written YA books that are very multidimensional, and I don't know.
I just also had that realization because I just read actually a pirate book called Crossbones, and it I think it's already out. I'm not sure, but it was a NetGalley arc. And y'all, this YA book, I was like, this is my new favorite book, I think.
I guess it's more like traditional YA, maybe like the stuff that we grew up with
2000s,
when we're actually young adults, like very, very young adults.
Yeah.
And it was always like the bad guy is bad, the good guy is good. The good guy will beat the bad guy. The end. You can go to sleep now. There are no bad things in the world because we defeated them all. Like that's always what I think of as like the traditional YA. And I think in more recent years, especially because there are a lot of people through like BookTube, Bookstagram, BookTok, Book, whatever. Like there are a lot more people of many different age ranges that are interested and invested in YA. So I think it's kind of been forced to expand as a genre and also to try different things because once you have the tired used tropes of like good guy beat bad guy, then it's like, well, what can you do that's more refreshing and what's new and what's what's different. So I think like in the years since then, it's definitely changed a lot. I haven't read like a mountain of YA, but I have read like enough of it that was interesting and I found a little bit more subversive sometimes, but usually I only figure that out when we have conversations like this. So I guess it also depends on like the amount of analysis that you do for a book versus just in one ear out the other next book.
Right.
So,
right. Yeah, I think the definition is actually always changing. And the more I think about it, obviously, because we're advancing as humans, but anyway, yeah, that's funny. Had that little realization on live. I find even an adult, when a villain is a specific person, I don't usually like the execution. It's why I like fantasy or sci-fi where the antagonistic force is more nature or world related. Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I'm sure like in these instances, you're like, what is the intention of the villain as a person, right? And this is something that I always look for when I'm reading from a villain's POV. I'm always like, why are they acting like this? Because I find it really juvenile when the villain just is bad to be bad, you know?
Yeah.
Like there's no like underlying trauma, for example, or there's no like ulterior motive, like they're trying to, you know, get
or there isn't even like a misunderstanding of like I am doing the right thing.
Right. Or they're misled or, you know, all these different things that it can be. And I think
I think also this kind of thing, like what Angela's saying, because I would find that like in fantasy and sci-fi where the antagonistic force isn't a person, it's much more likely for like probably adult stories. And I think that's because sometimes it's too easy where you defeat one bad person and then all the problems go away.
Yeah.
Usually in adult life, we find it's like there's never like one person that if you took them down, it would all go away. It's always the continued force to push down anybody underneath whoever's on top. It's not the people, I mean, the people on top are bad, but it's the things that put those people in place to push everyone down.
Right.
So that's the antagonistic force of the world is made this way, or that's just the way things are. And it's like, how do you fight against that and have like a rebellion, revolution of something on the scale of not just defeat the one bad guy, but beyond that. And I think, I mean, like YA has done that to a certain degree in some ways too. I mean, spoilers for the Hunger Games, I guess, in the last book, when Katniss is like, oh, I have to kill President Snow, and like that's the thing to do. And then she kind of realizes like, wait, Coin is just going to rise up and be the next President Snow, so it doesn't matter the person I kill, it's the fact that it's just going to be the next person on top to enforce their ideology on everyone else, and everyone else will just follow and keep their head under the radar. Like, you know, stuff like that. So like it does kind of go to show that like YA can do that, and like YA can be subversive, and you know, maybe not subversive is the right word, but like a little bit less than just, what am I saying? A little bit more than just surface level. So I mean, again, it really depends though, because not every author can pull off everything to the degree that they imagine, and it does take a lot of time to like sharpen that skill. Develop it into something that's also palatable to everybody. But I think that's also why it's interesting, because this is a very polarizing series in general, that some people really, really love it and some people just don't click with it at all. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I don't know. It's a very interesting series for us to actually start the book club with, but yeah.
Yeah. This is a little off topic from We Free the Stars, and I talk about this all the time, but a good example of a villain, like story where like you've got somebody at the top, but then once they are kind of taken out, there's still like so much more to do is the Red Rising series. And I know I talk about Pierce Brown all the time, okay, but jokes aside, like that series is one of the best, like I would say, like examples of seeing that there is a villain on top and like essentially like a president of this whole thing, and then kind of like once our main character kind of deals with that person, there's like 20 other things popping up that they have to deal with. And I think as far as adult series go, that's like one of my favorites because it goes into a deep dive of, okay, the main character thinks they're doing the right thing, the evil person thinks that they're doing the right thing, so then like who actually is right?
Yeah.
But on a YA scale, The Hunger Games is a good example. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Great. Good night. I'm sure you're gone, but see you later. As if Lee Bardugo invented the idea of morally great characters and Fall denies, I can't. It's true, though. It's true. Definitely not the first. Definitely will not be the last.
Yeah.
The same narrators as Ember in the Ashes? Yes, I think they are. I know.
This could be about anything, but I agree.
Yeah. I was like, put her at the pulpit, okay? I think the truth is that more popular YA fantasy aren't murdery. Sarah J. Maas never kills anyone off, and it makes it stick. Holly Black, same. Cassie Clare, basically same.
I would disagree on one thing, that the only person who I do remember that really dies in a Holly Black book is that one guy that Jude kills and then hides under her bed or something, and I never understood that plot line. But that one stayed dead. No repercussions, just vibes. But
again, it's
yes.
Like it's the plot armor for the main characters, but everyone else is disposable.
Right.
Kind of. Yeah. Where it's like, or like if it's like the main character's best friend or the main character's like little found family, like they never die. They're protected. It's fine. But it's always like random side character A through Z. You can go.
Yeah.
They're never
and
protected.
It doesn't just serve Jude in that book. It also serves her sister. And it's interesting. It's interesting that we're having that conversation because we already kind of like hated that dude, you know, like we don't even feel bad. Like he's dead. Okay. Anyway, in my opinion.
Again, that's the thing though. It's like, if it's always let's kill off someone that nobody cares about, it's like, why even bother killing them off in the first place then? Because
it doesn't mean anything. And it's like, okay, he's gone. See ya. Like Ember in the Ashes, super murdery.
I'm really excited to read Ember.
Yeah, I was like, I haven't continued after the first book, so I don't know what this is referring to, but no spoilers.
Might be a good thing to throw into the poll for next time, though, because I know some people don't love it as much.
Yeah, I've read the first two times each, and I just have a lot of trouble like retaining the story. Like it never sticks in my brain. I don't know why.
Interesting. Maybe book club would help.
It might be the audiobook, but
oh, maybe. Oh my gosh, just annotating a fantasy book. Oh, I would die. Okay, that's why I love a villain's POV or prequel / origin story so much. I want to be in their head to understand why they are the way they are. Same. I feel the exact same. Like there is this one book that's coming out, I think in November. I think it's called All of Us Villains, and it's literally like the Hunger Games, but if villains were the main characters. And I'm so excited to read it.
Say no more. Hunger Games, I'm in.
Yeah, it's like apparently they have to go into the same kind of a trial, and here we go with the tropes. But instead of everyone,
I'll never say no to. I will literally never say no to a death game trope.
I know. I don't know why I love it so much. Like murder may be my, brand. But they apparently like killing people and they have no like issue doing it. And so, all of us villains. That's why they're all there. So it's very interesting. Like very, very gladiator games, I guess. I think ideologies are a more interesting villain, like books that tackle imperialism. Sure, there's a villains, but there's also people who live under the villains who have to work through realizing that their ideology is bad. I love this, and like I wish I could give you my favorite example of this, but it would be a huge spoiler. So there you go. But I also, I was like, if you know me, what I preach about on my channel. I agree with this. And I love exactly kind of what Rachel is saying. Like when the villain has a chance to come back and be like, oh damn, I really messed it up for 3 books. For 3 books, I was killing
Three
people
books.
left and right. And now I realize that I am wrong. And so now I don't know what to do. I've got to deal with that, right? I've got to deal with my decisions and have those consequences. I agree. I really like that. I think people need to leave the typical YA formula and create different things. Vish, if you write a book, I'll read it.
Whether it's formulaic or not, we'll read it.
Yeah. I was like, do it. Do it. Already did it. Anyway, I'm a fan of villains who want not just power, but retribution, even though they're misguided. Yeah, the power trope for the villain is tiring for me, for sure. You know?
Yeah.
Because obviously
Which
we all
is
want
like
some
why I
semblance.
like witches so much. Like the really true unhinged witches who just like want to burn everything. I am still looking for a book that reads like that. But unfortunately no one wants to do that, so
Yeah, it was like true unhinged witches. I have to think about that one. I don't know if I've read. That's like me on my quest to get the most perfect pirate book. I'm like, please, someone give me a rack. Please read Ember. If they vote for it, we will do it. We will do it. It gets better with each book. Okay, good to know. So good, but heartbreaking.
If we do this, every show will just be us crying harder. Great.
Yeah, I was like, I feel like I already kind of got spoiled on this, but it's fine. I'm fine. I'll be okay. You know? Not Lou bringing up the bitch. The movie?
I'm sorry, it's October. It's like my favorite movie. I'm gonna just watch this movie every day for like the whole month.
That's so funny. Yeah, that movie's wild.
I gotta watch this.
Yeah, it's really wild. It's real. There's like some
so good
scenes with a granny in the moonlight. Just be prepared.
It's so good.
Prepared for new.
I could talk about I could climb on a stand and talk about this movie for like as long as this movie takes. I love it. It's okay.
Isn't that A24 or no?
I don't know. I think it is.
Okay. I was like, it seems like that kind of a film, that production company. Anyway, at Lou and Christine, it's Ferris. You're looking for Ferris. This is the Lunar Chronicles novella of the queen, stepmom, I think. I forget her name.
Good to know.
But yeah, so apparently that's her like villain origin story, and I have yet to read it.
Ooh.
But this is Noelle's like cup of tea, wherever I'm pointing down that way. Anyway. But yeah. Okay, guys, we're through the comments. So is there anything we haven't like hit on? Any important things? Because obviously we all know what happens in the book.
How do we feel about the ending?
Okay, I was going there. I was gonna say I think maybe, even though Altair is my favorite character, I think I kind of love the last page, and not like in a funny way where I'm like, oh, it's the end. But like I think I kind of loved the whole just kind of like ending conclusion, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because they're in that, I can picture it clearly, right? They're in the bed, the sun's coming in, the like, you know, breeze is like breezing the bed, like whatever. And then he's looking at her, and then he's like just making sure she's there because he's still going through it. And he's like, I can't believe I'm this lucky that I actually get to be with you. But are you real? And then he like goes to, you know, touch her and whatever. And then that very last line, I touched on it earlier, but I really liked that. So
I kind of liked a little bit before that, but still around the ending, where I was like, this is probably like a bit frustrating with the whole will they, won't they, like we've been talking about this whole time. But in a way, I kind of do like the fact that Zephyra was like, oh, you want me to come like rule with you or whatever? Like, no, I'm not going to do that. And she just left, and he was like, okay.
Yeah.
And like, she didn't come back for like 5 months. But then she just like randomly was like, you know what? I'm gonna go. And she just like walked inside, and everyone's like, you can't be in here. And she was like, I heard you needed a new Khalifa. And he was like, oh my God, babe, you're back. I don't know. It's just
a moment we all waited for.
Again, like I can't put my finger on quite what it is. I should have a better grasp of language because I read enough, but I just don't know how to describe it. There's just something about it. The fact that she wasn't like, typical YA trope of like, now I'll rule after all of this stuff, but like she made the conscious choice of like, I'm gonna go and like be with my family and like figure out what else is going on in my life, and then I'm going to make the choice of like, I'm allowed to love somebody and I'm allowed to make that like choice, and it's not really selfish of me to go be happy with this person I want to be with, and then taking the time on her own to figure that out. Like she, again, like very stubborn, very big-headed and not believing that she was supposed to do this, but finally like with the push that she needed to like go off and do that and to like rejoin and stuff. I don't know. There's something about that scene where she just like walked into the room and I was like, yes, it's happening finally. It's only been 1,000 pages. I've been waiting for this. Like,
yeah. I was like, it's only been since you guys met, so.
Yeah.
But yeah. What about you, Jess?
I mean, I definitely agree with what you guys have been saying. I liked the ending. I like when things are tied up nicely, so I appreciated it.
Yeah. I was like, I feel like you also love the sweetness of it, probably.
Yeah.
Well, also, there was the whole thing with Kifa. And I loved the line where she was
that was honestly like my favorite thing at the end, where she was still there when Saphira woke up and like really let her loyalties be known. I really liked her character.
And also when it was like, why would I choose to be one of 7 when I could be the one?
Yeah.
Yeah. That was good. It's like, you got a point, girl. All right. Okay.
We also love the asexual rep.
Yeah, I really love that. I was not expecting that. I did not know that this was going to happen, and I was like very pleasantly surprised by it.
Same. Yeah.
I was like, yeah, if only Saphira and Yasmin could have.
Yeah.
My one regret, but I guess this is fine.
I have quite a few regrets, but that's a big one.
Yeah, that's fine. Lou, what was your fave? Like of all the book, what's your fave? It doesn't have to be the end. Obviously.
No, I really loved the ending. I thought the ending was nice, but I actually do think it's the ending, because it does, like, the part where Nasir is like, you know what, I don't want to be king, so you go, Altair. I literally gasped. I was like, I did not see that one coming, but it made so much sense. Yeah. And so I like when I saw like everything just kind of tied together, and I was like, yeah, okay, this makes sense. I just loved it.
Yeah, you love when it works out. Honestly, and I do agree with that. Like, kind of, I feel like when I was reading it, I was like, oh, this is foreshadowing, like Altair is about to be king, you know? And I think I kind of ruined it for the end when that happened, because I was kind of expecting it. And I'm like, oh, Nasir would never be. No, he would never be. You know, he's going to go off and do his own thing. He's a Prince of Darkness.
Yeah, see, the fun thing for me is, like, it doesn't matter how formulaic any story is. I will never see anything coming, ever. Every single thing is like, what?
Wait, I love that for you.
God, like,
when Saphira died, I was like, no way.
Oh, yeah, what?
Okay,
I knew that she was going to come back. I was aware of it. I'm like...
We always... y'all, I will be shocked. I will be shocked if a main POV dies in a YA book and then they stay dead. If that...
Like, it'll never happen.
What about one of the biggest YA series of all time?
Okay.
It came right after the Hunger Games.
I realized that as I was saying it. And I'm not going to spoil it for anyone. But besides that... I will be very shocked.
Any self-respecting YA series wouldn't do that.
Yeah. I don't know. I just didn't think it would happen in this book, for sure not. No.
I don't... What are you talking... Okay, I'm afraid to ask.
We'll talk about it when you're older. Anyway.
I wouldn't understand.
Honestly, yeah. You're not old enough. You're not tall enough for the ride. So
oh no. Maybe one day.
It's fine. We'll talk about it later. But yeah, anyway, that's so funny. I can't believe that just happened. I literally was like gasp. But yeah, where was I going with that? Well, I'm glad that you enjoyed it, Lou.
I can't say anymore.
Yeah, I mean, overall, it was a pretty, like, a 3-star for me is fine. It was a fine time. It was an average time. I didn't hate it. I didn't actively hate it. When it gets under a 3, I'm actively hating on the book. But in this one, I feel like it was a very like even things that I liked and things that I didn't like, right? So 3's pretty good.
Yeah, I feel like for me, overall, I personally did not enjoy it, but I feel like objectively, this book has a lot of value and merit, and like it was well written. The language was beautiful.
Oh yes, the writing.
And that's kind of where my rating comes from. It like
Yes.
earned some stars back,
Right.
even though I didn't really
Jess,
enjoy
I
it
am
very
proud
much.
of you, okay? Like you are really going outside of your comfort zone. You're killing it.
Yeah.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
my ratings are usually like 1 star is I hate this book, it can burn, I don't know it exists.
Yeah.
Again, this is the worst book I've ever read in my life. I have 300 paragraphs to talk about with this book. I don't like it.
A 1-star book usually like, offends me.
Yeah, a 1-star book is like
I like
this
rarely
is
give a
speak
book
on my
1 star.
personality in a bad way, where like this is not good. 2 star is like it's okay. 3 star is like it's good. So for me, this was like a good book in terms of like the balance of like good and bad and stuff, and like the language was definitely a big part of it. That there were some things that became like very kind of repetitive at this point because of the length of the book and the fact we did this a lot in book 1, but I still was just like, wow, like the writing in this book is just really freaking pretty. Like
Yeah. I
it's
feel
very
like
hard
that's
to
part of the
ignore.
reason why I had trouble connecting to the characters, though, was because of the writing.
Mhm.
Just because I felt like it was focused more on being beautiful than like
Some of the
doing
things
anything else.
Giving you the juice.
We also did talk about this
Yeah.
before, but every time they're like stars, this is or skies, blah blah blah, like that was like the curse word, or like the thing that they would say. The other one was like sweet snow, and I thought it was sweet at the beginning, but in this book they did it a lot. Whereas like almost every single time Zafira talked, she was like, "Sweet snow, the way that he looked at his porridge before he ate it, it made me feel a certain." I was like,
I did not say porridge.
it was like every time someone did something, it was like sweet snow, skies, Sultan's teeth, something else. Like, you know, there were like a lot of things that I was like,
but it was funny when Almir became Sultan, and
oh
then
yeah,
he was like, "Oh, it's my teeth now."
Yeah.
Yeah, I was like,
That was
that's
cute.
fine. That's fine. But
The sweet
Yeah.
snow really had me rolling. I was like, girl, it's because you need to get on that. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
we're all sweet snowing around here. Anyway, yeah, I felt that.
Yeah.
I don't. Anyway, neither here nor there. All right. Any last words, Lou? Miss TED Talk.
Any last
Oh,
words?
I am so sorry. No, I had enough words for one live show. I'm good.
I love it. I love that you're here, and without you, this would not have been the same. So I'm
Yes.
glad. I'm glad
I
that you
do
enjoyed
like
it.
Natasha's comment over there.
Oh yeah. Okay. Sorry.
When that happened, I was like, why couldn't we have done this 400 pages ago?
The clown emoji. Yes. Okay. Okay. I kind of forgot that this happened. Yes. So why do what do we think this served? I think is the question. Like, what do we think that served? Like, why not sooner?
Because there wouldn't be a book if they had done it sooner.
Okay. Valid.
I have to think on that.
I mean, did she want to spend more time with the son that she did love?
I mean, she didn't die, did she?
No,
Did she have to like
would
heal
to
her
read
shoulder
it.
wound before she could give up
Didn't
her
she like
heart?
lose all her power though? Or no?
I don't know.
What happened to her? Did I miss?
She lost a majority of her abilities.
Yeah, like didn't she
She
become
was
like
just
not
really
as powerful?
weakened, I think, because she was trying to heal herself.
No, I think that without the heart, she actually lost like a majority of her
without the
power.
heart. I was just talking about like her getting stabbed with the silver dagger.
Oh, and also she
Your
might not have
quantity.
given it up in the beginning because of the lion, right? Because she knows that she's powerful, right? And she knows that she trapped him last time, so she probably didn't give it up because of that, you know, as like a safety measure. I would think if I was the Silver Witch, this is what I would do, right? And then, you know, once everything kind of looked like it was lining up, the puzzle pieces were all together, you know, Altair is back with the crew. That's when she felt comfortable to give it up, I would think. But yeah, it maybe could have been shortened. I think the whole
Yeah,
book
I think it was just a
shortened.
convenience thing at the end of the day.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, Jess is right.
I mean, this was definitely the thing where I was like, this feels like a D&D campaign, but not in a logic way, because I feel like you can't give up half of this thing and still retain like a bunch of superpowers and stuff like
It
that.
feels
So,
like you rolled a 20 when you shouldn't have.
yeah, I was like,
And the DM has to improvise.
Yeah, I was
Right.
like, that's where you like fudged your roll, and you were like, natural 20. Natural 20. Natural 20. And I was like, that's like a 5, sir. Like, I don't think so. But
And
anyway.
honestly, oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Oh no, I was just
D&D.
I was ending my thought.
I was just saying, I think it would have maybe been more powerful as far as like a murder aspect if she had died.
Like, it may have been, but I also feel like it would have just been like yet another random death. And I
Maybe,
would have kind of felt bad because it's like Nasir's already lost so much. And then
Give
like
him more drama.
no.
I'm just kidding. I like Nasir, you know.
Yeah.
Whatever.
I mean, I like that he still got to have like one figure in his life that was still basically like 100% on his side from the beginning.
Yeah.
Even though she's gone for so long. So like he had like some amount of healing that was possible for him.
But he's still got a long way to go, as we all know. Anyway, you're not late. You're just starting.
Well, we're just ending, but
We're ending.
the live show is here for
We can
rewatching
100%.
purposes, which is great. But I am going to use this as a smooth segue into what we're reading next month, as chosen by poll from you guys. So there is a Discord link if you're not already in there. That's where we vote for stuff, and we did a poll with a bunch of the books that everybody recommended to us for series that are fantasy series that are kind of polarizing, so we could read them and discuss them. So the series that won was the Villains series by V.E. Schwab. So we're reading Vicious, that's what it's called, next month, and then we're reading Vengeful in November, and then we'll be picking a new series to start in December. So we will put out a poll, as usual, on Discord. But we're going to be doing all the Vicious and Vengeful and reading sprints and stuff for fantasy series on my channel. So look out for that. We're going to start doing that stuff this month. It's October already. So we're going to do some reading sprints, and then we're going to do a live show for Vicious soon. So just so you know, that's the next thing for the Fantasy Series Book Club.
It's going to be fun. I'm anticipating liking this one since I'm such a villain freak, I just realized. So we'll see.
Yeah, after this conversation, I'm like, this isn't even what the book was about, but like, I want to read a villain origin story.
I think we are. I think we literally are.
So I'm excited for it.
So yeah, anyway.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's it, guys. We're going to wrap up. First of all, thanks to Lou for joining us as our guest.
Thank you for
host.
having me.
Yeah, because I mean it. I know I sound like sarcastic and uncaring, but like it really would not have been a good show without you, because three of us would have been like ignorant, just kind of like, yeah.
But like, this wasn't good. There was nothing good about it. And like, now we're like, no, thoughts.
Yeah, I definitely feel better about it after talking about it with you guys. So yeah, anyway, all right, guys, so that's it for Fantaseries tonight. Thank you so much for joining us. If you were in the comments, thank you guys for being here and being involved. If you guys are so inclined and not following, I'm going to include Lou's information in the description, like right after we get off here. So you'll be able to go and subscribe to her channel, and do us a favor, go ahead and like her video, most recent video, comment, watch it, and show her some love.
Like, I say this about all the people we bring up because they're actually good. Like, not just because it's like, here's the guest that... No, you don't understand. You haven't watched a YouTube video until you've seen those videos. Like, they will change your life. You have to go watch them.
I mean,
I'm not exaggerating.
I think they got a preview kind of tonight. Like, I think when, you know, we're joking about, you know, the rants, but it's not, I mean, like, it's value. There's value and there's opinion. Yeah, so go. Go right now. Anyway,
go, run.
On, let me put the links in first. Anyway, all right, guys.
Okay.
So we're gonna end it for tonight. Thank you for being here. We love you guys. We'll see you in our